Silent Guardians. Admiral Elena Costa stood at the observation deck of Watchpoint Alpha, Earth's most classified orbital installation. To the rest of the world, it was simply another weather satellite. To the 38 people who operated it, it was humanity's first and last line of defense against the stars. The vast emptiness of space stretched before her, dotted with stars and the occasional flash of a passing satellite. Behind her, Lieutenant Commander Jackson worked quietly at his terminal, monitoring the quantum field sensors that formed an invisible net around Earth. "Anything unusual, Jackson?" she asked, not turning from the viewport. "Nothing yet, Admiral. Same background radiation, same cosmic noise." He paused, adjusting something on his screen. "Though, wait." Elena turned, noting the change in his tone. "What is it?" "There's something at the edge of the heliobause, moving inward, definitely not one of ours." Elena was at his terminal in 3 strides. The display showed a heat signature moving with purpose. Too much purpose to be a natural object. Time to intercept. At current velocity, 18 hours to Earth orbit. She nodded, face impassive despite the adrenaline now surging through her system. "Alert all watchpoint stations. Initiate protocol lighthouse, and get me General Torres at UNDF command." As Jackson complied, Elena returned to the viewport. After decades of waiting, it was finally happening. First contact, but not the way the public imagined, with diplomatic greetings and cultural exchanges. No, Elena and the United Nations Defense Force had always known the truth. Any species advanced enough for interstellar travel would view Earth as resources, not equals. That's why Watchpoint existed. That's why humanity had spent the last 30 years preparing in secret. Commander Zelith of the Kravek Imperium scout vessel Vortex observed the blue-green planet growing larger on his view screen. His third eye membrane pulsed with excitement, a sign his species showed when anticipating a successful hunt. Preliminary scans show abundant water, diverse biosphere, and evidence of sapient life. His science officer, Nex, reported. Technological development appears primitive. Combustion engines, rudimentary atomic power, limited orbital presence. Zelith's mandibles clicked in amusement. Another world ripe for harvesting. What defenses do they possess? Minimal. Solid projectile weapons, chemical explosives, primitive nuclear devices. Their most advanced satellites appear to be simple communication and observation platforms. The commander moved to the central holomap, studying Earth's orbital space. So many satellites, yet so primitive. They clutter their own orbit with debris and obsolete technology. "Shall I prepare a colonization assessment, Commander?" "Yes, and activate stealth protocols. Not that these primitives could detect us, but standard procedure must be followed." The Vortex continued its approach, its advanced cloaking system rendering it virtually invisible to conventional detection methods. As the ship crossed the lunar orbit, Zelith felt the familiar satisfaction of discovering another world that would soon bow to the Imperium. In the underground command center of the United Nations Defense Force, General Miguel Torres studied the 3-dimensional projection of Earth and the approaching alien vessel. Representatives from 12 nations stood around the table, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of the hologram. "The vessel will enter our defensive perimeter in 90 minutes. Elena's voice came through the secure channel. "Watchpoint stations are ready. The Nemesis system is operational." Torres nodded grimly. "What's your assessment, Admiral?" "They're approaching cautiously but confidently. No defensive posture. They clearly believe we're technologically inferior." "Then let's not disappoint them," Torres replied. "Maintain passive observation until they've fully committed to orbit. No active countermeasures until my command." The representatives murmured agreement. For 3 decades, Earth had maintained the illusion of technological backwardness, while developing revolutionary defensive capabilities in secret. The public saw nations competing in a new space race, but behind closed doors, those same nations collaborated on humanity's true defense. After the destruction of the ISS in 2031, officially blamed on a meteorite collision, but actually the result of a brief encounter with an alien probe, world leaders had made the unprecedented decision to unite in secret. Resources were pooled, the brightest minds recruited, and a plan enacted. Appear primitive while developing capabilities beyond anything the public could imagine. Torres dismissed the representatives and turned to his communications officer. Activate all Nemesis stations. It's time to see if our gambit pays off. Zeleth felt a surge of pride as the vortex established a stable orbit around Earth. The planet looked even more promising up close. His crew had already identified optimal landing zones for the first wave of colonists. Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy patterns from some of the satellites. Nex reported suddenly, antennae twitching. Explain. Several satellites are emitting low-level quantum fluctuations. It's unusual for a pre-FTL civilization. Zeleth moved to the science station, mandibles clicking with irritation. Could it be natural phenomena misinterpreted by our sensors? Unlikely. The pattern is too. A sharp alarm cut through the bridge. Warning lights flashed across control panels. Hull integrity compromised. The engineering officer shouted. Molecular bonds destabilizing across all sections. Zeleth staggered as the ship shuddered violently. What's happening? Are we under attack? Impossible, Nex exclaimed. These primitives don't behave. The science officer never finished his sentence. Before Zeleth's eyes, Nex's console disintegrated, the metal and composite materials crumbling like sand. The phenomenon spread rapidly across the bridge, consoles and bulkheads collapsing into dust. Zeleth lunged for the emergency beacon, desperate to warn the Imperium. His clawed hand reached for the activation switch just as the material beneath his feet began to dissolve. Impossible, he whispered, watching his own limbs begin to disintegrate. They're just primitives. On Watchpoint Alpha, Alina and her crew watched the alien vessel's destruction with clinical detachment. The Nemesis system, nano-enhanced molecular equilibrium suppression integrated system, had performed exactly as designed, disrupting the molecular bonds of the alien craft's materials. Target neutralized, Jackson reported. Molecular disruption complete. No escape pods detected. Elena nodded, feeling neither joy nor remorse, only grim satisfaction that humanity's first true test had been passed. Dispatch recovery teams. I want every fragment collected and analyzed. She turned back to the viewport, watching the glittering debris that had once been an advanced spacecraft. The alien vessel had approached Earth expecting easy prey, and instead found a predator lying in wait. Send word to General Torres, she said. Operation Lighthouse successful. But tell him this isn't over. Jackson looked up. You think there will be more? Always. Alina's expression hardened. Somewhere out there. They're waiting for their scout to return. When it doesn't, they'll come looking. The quantum sensors remained active, scanning the depths of space for the next threat. Humanity had won its first skirmish against the stars, but Alina knew the real battle was just beginning. The reckoning. 6 months passed without incident after the destruction of the vortex. Earth continued its charade of technological mediocrity, broadcasting simple radio signals and launching occasional chemical rockets, all while the Watchpoint network monitored deep space with quantum sensors far beyond public knowledge. Dr. Amara Chen studied the reconstructed fragments of alien technology in her laboratory beneath the Himalayan mountains. As lead scientist of Project Nemesis, she had spent weeks analyzing the recovered debris. It's remarkable, she told Admiral Costa, who had come to review her findings. Their materials are unlike anything we've seen. Molecular structures that shouldn't be stable, yet somehow were, until our system disrupted them. Elena examined the holographic representation of the alien alloy. Have you been able to adapt our defenses based on these findings? Yes and no. We've recalibrated the Nemesis field to more efficiently disrupt their specific materials. But She hesitated. But there are traces of a communication system unlike anything we've encountered. Quantum entanglement on a scale we've only theorized. They were sending data, Admiral, right until the end. Elena felt a chill. You think they managed to transmit information about us? About what happened? It's possible. Not enough for detailed analysis, but perhaps enough to warn others. Before Elena could respond, her secure communicator chimed. Costa here. General Torres's voice came through, tense and urgent. We've got multiple contacts approaching from the direction our visitor came from. Big ones. Recommend you return to Watchpoint Alpha immediately. Understood. On my way. She turned to Dr. Chen. Get your team working around the clock. If you're right about that transmission, we're about to have company. Supreme War Commander Drazik of the Kravik Imperium stood on the command deck of the dreadnought Eternal Dominance, leading a battle fleet of 15 warships toward the insignificant blue planet. His rage was cold and calculating, the most dangerous kind among his species. The last transmission from the vortex has been analyzed, his intelligence officer reported. Before destruction, they detected unusual quantum fluctuations from what appeared to be primitive satellites. Drazik's secondary hearts pulsed with anger. So these humans hide their true capabilities. Interesting. The Science Directorate suggests caution. If they possess technology advanced enough to destroy a cloaked scout ship. They surprised one ship, Drazik interrupted. They will not surprise 15, especially now that we know to look for these quantum fluctuations. He moved to the tactical display, studying the approach vectors his strategists had plotted. Spread the fleet in wide formation. Maximum sensor coverage. I want those satellites identified and destroyed before we establish orbit. Around him, the crew prepared for battle. The Imperium had conquered 17 worlds in the last cycle. Earth would be the 18th, and Drazik would personally ensure these deceptive humans paid for their treachery. In the UNDF Command Center, representatives from Earth's Unified Defense Council gathered once more. The holographic display showed 15 massive vessels approaching in a dispersed formation. They're being cautious, Torres observed, spreading out to prevent us from targeting them all at once. Admiral Costa nodded. They've learned from their scout ship. Standard Nemesis protocols won't be sufficient. Torres turned to the assembled representatives. Options. The Chinese general spoke first. Activate the orbital kinetic platforms. Strike before they enter defensive range. Too revealing, countered the Russian admiral. If we miss even one ship, we expose our true capabilities without the guarantee of victory. Dr. Chen, who had been invited to the council, cleared her throat. There's another option. Nemesis Phase 2. All eyes turned to her. Phase 2 had been theoretical, untested except in simulations. The risk, began the American representative, is necessary, Chen finished. Based on their approach vector and formation, they're specifically looking for our defensive satellites. They'll identify and destroy the Nemesis emitters before they're in range. Explain Phase 2 for everyone, Dr. Torres requested. Chen activated a separate holographic display. Instead of generating the molecular disruption field from our satellites, we use Earth itself as the emitter. The electromagnetic field of our planet becomes the delivery mechanism. The power requirements would be enormous. The British science advisor protested. Yes, we'd need to reroute power from every major grid worldwide. There would be global blackouts for approximately 72 hours. Silence fell over the room as the implications became clear. Such an event couldn't be hidden from the public. The masquerade of normalcy humanity had maintained for decades would end. Torres looked at each representative in turn. The alternative is potential conquest or extinction. I believe the choice is clear. One by one, the representatives nodded their assent. Begin preparations, Torres ordered, and draft an emergency broadcast. It's time humanity learned the truth. As the Kravik battle fleet approached Earth, Drazik observed the planet with growing suspicion. Their long-range sensors had indeed identified unusual satellites, precisely where the vortex's final transmission had indicated, but something felt wrong. "War Commander," his sensor officer called. "We're detecting massive power fluctuations across the planet's surface." "Explain." "Energy grids are failing across entire continents. It appears their civilization is experiencing some kind of catastrophic infrastructure collapse." Drazik moved to the sensor display, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "Just as we arrive. Too convenient. Perhaps they're diverting power to weapon systems. Possible. Or..." Drazik's third eye widened suddenly with realization. "Evasive maneuvers. All ships, maximum dispersion." His order came too late. As the fleet entered the outer boundary of Earth's magnetosphere, the planet itself began to glow with a faint blue luminescence. On the Eternal Dominance, alarms shrieked as systems began to fail. Unlike the quick disintegration of the vortex, this attack was more subtle and more terrifying. Weapon systems failed first, then propulsion, then life support. One by one, the ship's systems shut down as the molecular bonds of critical components simply ceased to function. "Status report," Drazik demanded as emergency lighting bathed the bridge in red. "7 ships completely disabled," came the grim reply. 5 experiencing cascading failures. 3, including us, still operational but damaged. Drazik stared at the viewscreen, at the seemingly primitive planet that had just crippled the pride of the Imperium fleet. "Prepare the remaining functional ships for immediate withdrawal. We must warn the Imperium." As the surviving ships struggled to retreat, Earth continued its silent, deadly pulse. Alina watched from Watchpoint Alpha as the alien fleet disintegrated. Some ships exploded spectacularly as power cores failed. Others simply went dark, drifting lifelessly in orbit. 3 vessels, damaged but still functional, fired emergency thrusters and began a chaotic retreat toward deep space. "Should we pursue?" Jackson asked. Alina considered the question carefully. "No, let them go, Admiral. They need to tell others what happened here today," she explained. "The galaxy needs to know that Earth is not prey." Below, the planet was dark. Every major power grid offline to fuel the planetary Nemesis field. But cities would soon light up again. And when they did, humanity would be changed forever. General Torres's voice came through her communicator. "The broadcast is ready, Admiral. The world is about to learn the truth." "How are they taking it so far?" "Better than expected. There's fear, of course, but also unity. Seeing the alien ships in orbit, knowing what might have happened if we hadn't prepared, it's bringing people together." Elena nodded, watching the 3 fleeing ships grow smaller against the backdrop of stars. "What do you think they'll do next?" "The aliens? Return with a bigger fleet, most likely. And we'll be ready." As Watchpoint Alpha continued its silent vigil, Elena thought about the journey ahead. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage, not with peaceful greetings, but with a demonstration of power. The path forward would be difficult, filled with challenges and threats. But for the first time, the galaxy would know what humans had always believed about themselves, that despite their divisions and flaws, when united against a common threat, humanity was a force to be reckoned with. Earth's orbit had become a graveyard for alien ships, and the message was clear to any who might come next: underestimate humanity at your peril.